Danny Ainge, former Celtic player and GM as well as the current CEO of the Jazz, likes to commit to things. He's either all in on winning a ring, as he was when he traded all of the Celtics' young players for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen back in 2007, or he's in full rebuild mode. When it became clear the Celtics were no longer contenders, he traded KG and Paul Pierce for a new set of young players to rebuild around. With that being said, it would make sense if Ainge tries to get rid of Donovan Mitchell after trading Rudy Gobert. He isn't interested in chasing the play-ins for a year or two before Mitchell ends up signing somewhere where he can win. Ideally, Utah will trade for assets that will pay off in the distant future without tanking next season. Donovan Mitchell is most likely leaving the Jazz, so here are some of the trades that could happen. First up, we have the Brooklyn Nets. Ben Simmons and Mitchell cannot both play for the Nets next season due to the extensions with their contracts. So what if they got rid of Simmons? An ideal trade scenario for the Nets to get Mitchell sounds like this. They trade KD to a team who's able to give them both draft picks and high-level veterans. They can then flip Simmons for more draft picks and role players. After that, they could trade Kyrie to the Lakers for, you guessed it, more draft picks. The Nets would have gotten enough picks to give to the Jazz for Mitchell, and through trading Durant, have a solid starting lineup around Mitchell to possibly contend in the future. The team would be nothing crazy, but it wouldn't be too bad either. It is definitely a good start considering they would be building around a young all-star. When looking at how limited Brooklyn's options are right now, it could end a lot worse than starting over with Mitchell. There are many angles of these trades you have to consider. Is there anyone willing to give up multiple first-rounders for Simmons? Would the Nets make a trade for KD that isn't asking for too much? Would the Lakers give up 2 first-round picks for Kyrie? So many things need to go their way for the Nets to make this happen. The path is there if the Nets want to take it, but it is a lot of negotiating, and I just can't see it happening. Next up, we got the Pelicans. This trade idea definitely makes more sense on paper than it would in reality. Donovan Mitchell's a better player than CJ McCollum. He's also 5 years younger. New Orleans has 6 tradable first-round picks, 2 of them being Lakers picks, which could be valuable in the future. If they want to expand their time frame to contend, flipping McCollum for some assets and then going all in on Mitchell would make sense. But there are more layers to it. Teams don't just trade for established players only to replace them 6 months later. McCollum immediately played a big role on the Pelicans after joining. They aren't going to break up what was a respectable playoff team last season to chase one player. That's not how building a basketball team works. If it was, the Pelicans would probably be after Durant a little more aggressively right now. So no, the Pelicans probably aren't getting Mitchell. They just happen to be one of the few teams that would be able to get him while still being a playoff team. Over time, the Pelicans will likely go after a third star to play alongside Zion and Brandon Ingram. Donovan Mitchell just probably won't be that guy. Next is one that a lot of people are hoping for, which is the Miami Heat. Their small amount of draft picks is going to make a Mitchell trade tough. The Heat don't have any first rounders from other teams and owe their 2025 pick to the Thunder. At the moment, they can give the Jazz 2 first-round picks, 3 swap picks, and their most recent first-round selection, Nikola Jovic. The Stepien rule prevents teams from being without a first-round pick in consecutive drafts. The 7-year rule prevents teams from trading picks farther than 7 years away. So the Heat could offer their 2023, 2027, and 2029 picks for Mitchell, considering their 2025 pick is going to the Thunder. Working in Miami's favor, however, is Tyler Hero, who is Danny Ainge's longtime interest. It was reported he planned on drafting the former Kentucky star with the 14th pick back in 2019, but Miami got to him first only 1 pick before. If Hero is used as the centerpiece of this trade, I think the Jazz would consider the offer. Although Mitchell and Bam Adebayo are both on their rookie extensions, they can still play on the same team because Miami drafted Bam. It is the opposite scenario as Ben Simmons, who also has the same rookie deal, but was traded to Brooklyn. Teams can have 2 players on rookie extensions as long as one of them was drafted by the team. Another possible landing spot is the Toronto Raptors. Let's say Toronto doesn't want to trade for Durant. Is Mitchell a possible option? Toronto is stacked with defensive wings, which would allow him to conserve more of his energy for his offensive game, which is what he's best at. His one-on-one scoring is exactly what they've lacked since Kawhi left, and his young age would give him some runway to build around him. The question the Raptors need to answer is the same thing they didn't answer in trade talks with Durant. That question is, are they willing to give up Scottie Barnes? That answer is probably no. He's a Rookie of the Year and a future star. But Mitchell's a star right now, and unlike Durant, is going to stay that way for a while. The Raptors might be losing badly in the long run from trading Scottie because they are essentially betting on him not reaching his potential. If he grows into a steady all-star like Mitchell and they keep him, the trade would be correctly avoided because other assets along with Barnes would be lost. Hopefully that makes sense. The Raptors traded a lot last time for someone who didn't really want to be there. Losing Kawhi likely scares Toronto from making any big moves like that. Unless Mitchell shows a real interest in joining, Barnes is just too valuable just to hope that Mitchell's excited to play there and can lead them to a championship. Still, if they have to give up Scottie for anything, the 25-year-old all-star probably would be a top choice. This one is possible, but I think the Raptors are content right now and want to continue with their current roster. The final team is the one I think he will end up with if he does leave, which is the New York Knicks. If you're a fan of Donovan Mitchell, you know the connections he has with New York. He is represented by the CAA, which is one of the most prestigious basketball academies in the country. Knicks president Leon Rose also happened to run the CAA's basketball operations at the time. Mitchell grew up in Connecticut, not very far from New York. His father even worked for the New York Mets. The interest and enthusiasm definitely goes both ways. The Knicks can send the Jazz as many draft picks as most other teams. That's not an issue. They have 8 first-round picks they could trade, 4 of them being their own. Also, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, and Quentin Grimes are an interesting trio of young players for Utah to take a look at. However, chances are they aren't going to take a trade that doesn't involve RJ Barrett. If the Knicks trade everything they have for Mitchell, they will have no room to improve. Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson would be a great young core to build around. If the Knicks put 7 or 8 first-rounders on the table, nobody else is going to top that. Right now, they can make something happen with or without Barrett, meaning they're in a pretty good spot to actually get him. As someone who lives 30 minutes outside of New York, it would be great to see a new all-star caliber player join the Knicks. Out of all the teams in the NBA, these are the only few ones I think have a chance at even negotiating for Donovan Mitchell. Who knows if he will even leave the Jazz? This video could all be for nothing. They're all rumors at the end of the day. So what do you think? Do you think he's leaving? If so, where is he headed? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time.